Want to welcome everyone to the February 11th Reno County Commissioners meeting. And so we'll call this meeting to order. And we'll stand for the flag salute and a prayer by Gary Gettering from Elliott Mortuary.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we pray? Our gracious Heavenly Father, as we begin this meeting, we're mindful of your love for us and cause us to become more aware of who we are and our value and our identity in you and what you've done for us. Thank you, Lord, for this country in which we live and the freedoms that are ours as Americans. And that one of those freedoms is the freedom to govern ourselves. And so we're thankful for those who serve in this chamber. I pray for wisdom and discernment in the discussions and the decisions that are made here today that affect the residents of Reno County. We're also mindful of those who serve us out in the county, first responders and so forth. We pray for your watchful care over them today. And Lord, I pray that just as we live together as Americans, remind us that we have more in common than we have that separates us. And I pray that you'd bring unity to this land and be glorified in this place and throughout this county today. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gary,
All right, you're welcome.
for the intercession. I have a few comments this morning to do at this point in time because I feel they're more important to do it at the start of this meeting so more people may be able to hear it. And so I apologize to the rest of the commissioners for putting it up now instead of in commission comments. And it involves two House bills. House Bill 2745, which has to do with taxation and the fact that the state legislators have put this bill up in such a position that it's impossible for our local governments, counties and cities, to be able to utilize it because of the time constraints and the period of time that they said we could do this. So I was disappointed that the state legislatures haven't contacted their local governments to see how the timing frame could work if they want this bill, if this bill should pass. The other bill I'd like to speak of is House Bill 2728. And it takes away local citizens' right to have input to any energy systems. I know that energy systems is a tough, but that would include battery storage as well as alternative and newer style systems. It gives all the rights to siting to one group, and that's the KCC. And maybe you might not agree with this, but KCC has a past of not seeing a price increase that they didn't like. It's just the fact that local governments, that's the way state legislators, especially from the more urban cities areas, are taking away the citizens' right, the local government's right to hear from their citizens and make local decisions. In place, they're putting it up at the state level. And I think that goes against the grain of everyone. That 2780 also said that it limited local governments, any government action to have any say. So just a couple of those items. And I thank you for letting me take this time just to comment on those two items. Is there any time for public comment? Is there anyone in the audience who would have something they would like to say regarding something not on the agenda? Okay. Are there any additions or revisions to the agenda as presented by staff? See none? Now, does any of the commissioners, would they like to take an item off of the consent agenda and put it down into the business session? I think we have a pretty good description and information regarding those items that are on the consent agenda. If there's none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by staff?
I'll make that motion to accept the consent agenda as presented by staff.
All right,
I'll second that.
been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Is there any discussion? All right. Take a vote now.
If you get just a second, I think a little clarification on the land change out there might be in order just for the public to hear. There was a little feedback on some of these things on consent
Okay.
agenda, the rezoning.
Sounds fine.
I think if you don't mind, it'd
No,
be
that'd be
appropriate
fine.
to just hear why we did that, because there's some confusion out there, and I'd like people to hear that if we could.
The one maker,
Yeah,
the golf course.
The golf course region, yeah, just so that they understand.
Mark Von Atchen, County Planner. The rezone petition for the Salt Lake Golf Course petition here was something that staff recommended to the applicant there, but for the fact that R2 zoning is for a high-density residential development, usually served by public sewer and public water. And in talking to the applicants prior to submission of that petition, they weren't intending to do any kind of residential development with this proposal. So staff recommended they just go ahead and rezone that back to the agricultural district. And if you recall, the old R2 zoning was a zoning district that was put in place from the previous golf course development, and this new golf course development is not intending to do any kind of residential development. So staff wanted to just remove that zoning and make the whole property agricultural.
They don't intend on any residential building sites on that whole area?
There will be lodges for people to stay at to play golf, but as far as individual residential properties that people can purchase and live out on the golf course, no. There will not be anything
I see
like
that
that.
they've kind of marked off, it looks like lots along Buda Haven Road and they look like they surveyed off maybe 3, 4, 5 section lots there.
I don't believe so on that.
You don't believe so?
I don't know what that is, no.
But the whole complex is
The whole complex will be under one zoning district, one property. There's a small property to the north, but there won't be any individual lots split out for people to purchase a private lot with this development.
thank you.
Thanks, Mark, appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt that, but I just.
No, that's fine.
I've had a little bit of feedback, and I just thought people ought to hear that, so.
Yeah.
Good to have information out there. We'll vote now.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner Winger,
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurst.
Yes. Okay. We have an item tabled from the January 28th meeting, and it's a tax abatement for property owned by Mark Coberly located at,
That's part of it.
Commissioner, that was on consent, that was part of the consent
is
agenda.
that, oh, okay, I didn't catch that, sorry. Okay. Next page is the next item, okay? Business item is the Emergency Management Annual Report. Adam?
Morning, Commissioners. Adam Wessar. I submitted a lengthy report to you. I'm going to hit just a couple high points of there. One of the biggest things we do is coordination of resources. When we're coordinating resources, something we request from the commission usually is a disaster declaration. What that disaster declaration does and how it works is when we realize that there's going to be an event that's going to be longer than a day, and we're going to need some state, federal, or other local resources that we can't usually get, we'll request a disaster declaration from the Board of County Commissioners. How that process usually works is Randy or I will call the chairman, and we'll ask for a verbal declaration so we can get our resources coming, and then we'll come do a formal presentation after things have calmed down in the board's meeting at a normal session. So what's that disaster declaration do? The biggest thing it does for us is qualifies us for those resources. Things we've used in the past are firefighting resources, task forces. We've used airplanes, Black Hawk helicopters, you name it, we've qualified for that under that disaster declaration. And then on the back side of it, we also qualify for some reimbursement. What that reimbursement looks like is the county is responsible for approximately the first $290,000. If we meet that threshold, we can qualify for some state assistance. To meet a presidential disaster declaration, the state also has to qualify with a $5.5 million threshold. So we meet our 290, the state meets their 5.5, and we can qualify for up to 75% of reimbursable expenses. That means the county's still on the hook for the last 25%, but it's a big benefit to our taxpayers. We also have a fire management assistant grant that we've used a few times in the recent years. The fire management assistant grant is really designed to get the resources to large wildfires immediately without delay, and the funding piece for that is a little bit easier to get. The fire has to be actively burning out of control, and it has to be impacting a populated area. So our threshold, our individual threshold for a fire management assistant grant is $277,000, and the statewide threshold is just over $830,000. That means if we have a smaller fire and the state's already met their threshold, we can still benefit from that FMAG without actually hitting our individual threshold number. The problem with these reimbursements is they take a lot of staff time to put all that information together and submit it to the state. And it also takes a lot of meetings with the state to try to get that reimbursement. And the reimbursement doesn't come back to the counties, townships, small cities, the applicants for approximately 2 years. So it's quite the process to work through there. So the next thing I want to talk about is our activation levels of our Emergency Operations Center. So our Emergency Operations Center, we activate in 3 different levels. It's a watch, partial activation, and full activation. A watch, it basically means, hey, we might have severe weather today. We know that the high fire danger, et cetera. We're actively watching the weather, but we don't actually have a staffed full EOC there. Our partial activation usually means that, hey, our threat's imminent. We know there's going to be severe weather. We know there's going to be fire weather, whatever that might be. We're actively watching that and make sure that we're represented somewhere. For severe weather, we'll usually do that at our Emergency Operations Center here in the county building at the Law Enforcement Center. And we have people sitting there monitoring the weather, working directly with the National Weather Service and any responders. For a full-scale activation, our building is not conducive to a full-scale activation due to size and some technology restraints. So we go out to the Command Fire Training Center out on East 4th Street by Hutch Fire and operate out of there. For a full-scale activation, we average about 40 people in that room making decisions. The last full-scale activation we had was for the wildfires north of Hutchinson back in December. Our CERT team, something else I want to hit on, it's our Community Emergency Response Team. It's an all-volunteer team that come out and help us anytime we need. We have monthly trainings with them. We provide them a bag of safety equipment. And what they usually do for us is they manage our donated supplies. They'll go out and run food to responders. They'll help with any sheltering operations, and they're really our boots on the ground. Having a small staff, but being supported by all these volunteers is very beneficial to us. Depending on the year, we have around 30 people who are fairly active in this program, and they volunteer their time to us. The next thing I want to hit on is our fire merger. So the 8 rural fire districts were merged into Reno County Fire District 1 effective January 1 of this year. Things are going really well with that. We're interviewing an operations chief today to hopefully fill that role and work a little bit closer with the fire districts and with the chiefs. And we actually voted on a new logo. So the logo was sent out to all the fire chiefs, and we adopted a new logo that represents Fire District 1. So being the fire board, we brought you guys all hats today with the new logo on it.
Thank you.
So that's the new logo that was voted on and adopted by Reno County Fire District 1. So some of the things that we're dealing with right now, having a new fire district, is we had to wait quite a while for a nearest number through the state. What that number does is it does all of our CAD response. Every time you call 911, there's a response plan that's put into a CAD, and that's how our units are dispatched. Having to wait on that nearest number from the state has put us behind on our response plans, but that's a work in progress. We hope in the coming month or so that our response time or our response plans will be completed. The benefits we've seen from it is we can call whoever we need when we need them. So the automatic aid stuff is out the window, and we can get the appropriate amount of resources on every call now. So it's been a big benefit to us. One of the complaints we've received from some of the fire districts is how we're funding things. So the funding piece of it, just because we're one big district doesn't mean we have an unlimited pot of money. We have to be fiscally responsible with the taxpayer dollars, and we're really trying to prioritize the needs over wants. When we're looking at the wants versus the needs, we're looking for what's going to be measurable, and we're delaying or declining some of the discretionary spending that has happened in the past. And again, that's just, we're focused on the essential services and what's going to strategically put us ahead when we're spending money. One of the things that we don't negotiate on are safety-related items. We want to ensure that all our firefighters are 100% taken care of. They have the appropriate equipment and personal protective equipment they need to safely respond to any emergency in the county. So some of the upcoming events we have, February 23rd at 6:30, we're hosting meteorologists from the National Weather Service to provide annual storm spotter training. That's going to be at the Hutchinson Fire Training Facility out on East 4th Street at 6:30 p.m. Generally, we have about 200 people show up to that event, so it's really well attended. We do utilize all of our fire districts for our storm spotters, so they're encouraged to go as well, and that would be counted as a training for them. And then February 28th from 4 to 7, the fire station in Nickerson will be hosting an open house at their new fire station. And then in March, we'll do a quarterly training with the fire districts. Given the current climate conditions, we anticipate another busy year. Things are long and primed to burn. So as things continue to dry out and fire weather becomes more conducive to burning, we expect to have a busy year. With that, I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Is there the funding concerns? Where are they coming from? Whom are they coming from? What are they about?
Most of them are just firefighters.
Firefighters?
They see a large district now. They see a larger amount of money than what they saw in the past because it was 8 different fire districts, and now those budgets are all combined together. So they think there's a lot of money there, and we can go out and buy whatever we need. We've gotten requests for trucks. We've gotten requests for new nozzles, you name it. And we're really trying to prioritize the needs versus wants and being responsible to our taxpayers.
And what are these concerns from the firefighters, that they need these or want them, or?
We explain the needs versus wants.
Yeah.
And we try to approach it as, hey, we're trying to be strategic in our purchasing. Getting through to them is sometimes a challenge, But when you're managing over 150 volunteers or better a lot of days, it's hard to reach every single one of them. So we're working really hard on giving them the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we not purchasing everything you want? And we're trying to work with them, but that has been a complaint from us.
Adam, it's getting close to burning season for a lot of people, so if there's a question regarding whether I can burn a small trash pile or whatever, what's your number to call?
Our number is 620-694-2793, and that'll get you directly to our administrative assistant. She should be able to
That'll
direct
reach
you.
your emergency management.
Yep.
Okay.
That position works 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. We put her from 9 to 6 so she can hopefully catch some more of those phone calls that might come in a little bit after 5 when someone's getting home from work. If there's questions before 9 o'clock, our numbers are posted online as well, where they can reach myself or the fire administrator.
Okay.
What about of course, most of people burn on weekends when they're home. That's when I seem to get the most calls about I can't burn is on the weekends. I know it goes to 911, correct?
So anytime you're wanting to burn, you have to call 911 it's their non-emergent number to report that burn. If they tell you, hey, you can't burn, there's nothing we can do that's going to change that. By resolution, we don't have the authority, a single commissioner doesn't have the authority to grant a burn when it's not a day that's conducive to burning.
So who has the authority?
And no one does. It would have to be the board that changes the entire resolution. We do not have the authority to grant a
If
burn.
you call and say you can't or can't burn or whatever, and the people say there's no wind. So what do you the answer from the 911 is authority, right?
Correct. So the wind's all done through the National Weather Service.
Uh-huh.
It's all through forecasted wind. We've gone through several different iterations of the burn process, and the most feedback we received from the public was when we allowed them to monitor their own wind speed, because they wanted a simple yes or no. So we took the feedback from the public and developed a new burn resolution where it's all based off the National Weather Service wind speed. And when you call 911, they'll give you a yes or no whether you can burn or not.
And those regulations are on the website.
Yeah, sure. Some people don't have computers, is what I hear.
I hope that individuals that are burning have a plan in advance. And if they plan in advance, we can make sure they have the information. Most good burns are planned a week in advance or even longer, and we can provide them with paper copies. We'd be more than happy to mail things to them, and we can get that information in their hands. We just need to know that they don't have it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Okay, County Commission reports. You want to start, Richard?
I don't have a ton to report, but I have a couple things. I do know that people do watch these meetings because I made a comment, and I will correct what I said. I did say that we do have mandated departments and things that we have to do that are mandated from the state. And I made a comment about the library being mandated, which was brought to my attention with an email, and I appreciate the person doing that. And I did investigate, and they are correct. The state can mandate on a smaller county of around 10,000 or so to have a resource, to have a museum. And so, but in 1960 or 61, the Historical Society in Reno County decided that they wanted to have a museum, and they put it to the vote, and it was voted in. And after that vote, they voted later on to how much to fund it. And I do want to say that we don't fund it for what they have said that.
It's a maximum.
Yeah, maximum. They have a maximum, but they did say, this would be the maximum, and so we do not meet that. So I want to apologize for saying, incorrectly that we have a mandate for a museum, but now that it's here, we do have the authority as a county commission to fund it, and we try to fund it where it's not run down, but also maybe not the Taj Mahal, so someplace in between. So that being said, I do appreciate the person taking the time to email me, and I did investigate some. So it wasn't in Hutch or Reno County, or it was in Reno County, but it wasn't in Hutch until 1986, I think, is when they opened the museum here. But anyway, so that being said, and the person actually listed a bunch of things that I know we could do bare bond, bare minimum with taxes, and maybe have just roads, bridges, security, fire, and EMTs and things like that. But there's a number of other departments, and if you're not needing that department, I understand how it would be easy to say, just get rid of it. But that would not benefit the population of Reno County, in my estimation or my feelings. So that being said, we try to, as a budget, when we write our budget, we try not to rob from Peter to pay Paul, but we also want to make sure that if a person needs a benefit, that it's there for them, because they do pay property taxes and sales taxes and other forms of fees and stuff. So that's the first part. The second part is I have a hobby, and some of you know what it is, but I went to a show last weekend, and I have a friend that I went with, and he likes to ask questions a lot of times. And so he was asking some of the vendors at this show what was one of their best shows, and they listed a couple off. And this particular show was pretty busy. There was a number of people walking around, but I also saw a lot of younger people, and they were buying some things. And this one vendor said, yeah, this show, he had one of the best shows that he's had in a number of years. And he said, that's usually a sign that the economy is on the uptick. And I know it's easy to get down, and if you look at prices, there are still high prices out there. But this person said that means there's some discretionary funds that a person can enjoy something that they like and not be cutting their budget at home or hurting as bad at home. So that being said, was a positive that I drew from this weekend. So I just wanted to pass that on, and I was uplifted by the number of people that we saw and visited with. So, but and the people that I visit with in my district, for the most part, are upbeat and looking forward to the next few years. So that being said, that's all I have.
Okay, Don?
Yeah, on my commissioner thoughts is twofold. I thought our major newspapers here in the county since our last meeting have had some pretty good editorials. The one reminding us that we do have our differences and we should bring them up and should discuss them. But my big takeaway was that be careful on how you say things and how you treat the people with a different point of view than you may have. Be civil in how you discuss and go through things. And I can agree with that. The other editorials in our other major paper here were on what we're doing locally. One was a thank you, which we covered pretty strongly. Talk for snow removal and that sort of thing. And people do need to thank you. And that happened as well as in the two major county and the major cities was talked about. But our local smaller cities did a very good job. I was in several of them. Our township roads were open right away. Just wanted to agree there and add that little thought. The other editorial, I think, hits very close to home. with certain things that are coming to this county and making it attractive for other types of businesses and various things. We are probably going to be seeing a whole lot of economic development, and we probably got to be cognizant of, do we take the quick buck, or how do we spend the limited resources we have, both infrastructure and natural resources here? Do we do it for a short-term quick dollar, or do we make sure that we are into things that are sustainable for the long run and get us to a point where, when we do need these natural resources and other things in the future, that we actually have them available for sustained growth, sustained job production, or the production of new jobs. The other thing that in the last 2 or 3 days that's really bothered me is, as Ron said earlier, Mr. Hurst said earlier, we've got some bills going on in the state of Kansas that is completely trying to take away all local control. And that's what scares me. I don't want somebody 200 or 300 miles away from me making decisions for me and the people I represent. You guys out here, you're close to what's going on, and the people you elect in your cities, in your townships, are close to what's going on, and we should have a voice when it's happening in our backyard. This idea that some government appointee, and it's happening on 2 fronts with the bills that are up, going to be talked about yesterday and today. One of them's on the water issues, trying to circumvent local input on water and what can be done with water. I know it's a very important and one of the most important things. If you don't have water, you don't have anything. But who knows better than the local people what's happening locally? We don't need somebody, a single unelected person, making those decisions for us here in our county and our cities. The other thing is this taxation issue. If they're going to cap our ability to, this group here as a county, in most cities, have 2 ways to get, on a local level, get funds to fund their operations. That's by sales tax, and they have a cap on that, as we've been discussing in the last 2 weeks. And they're talking about a cap on property tax. I know property taxes are too high. I pay a lot of them. But the bottom line is, if you cap the 2 means of revenue for these entities, townships, school districts, counties, cities, if you cap the only revenue source they have and take all discretion away from the locals, how are we going to create a budget? How are we going to make sure we have enough money? Other states do it differently. They don't make the locals fund everything with those 2 items. Or the state does funding from other items. So yes, they can have a lower property tax, but if there isn't a fundamental change in the way things are happening, we've got our hands tied. And when that happens, I just don't know how we're going to be able to operate. I'm not for higher taxes, but you have to have enough funds to operate. As Richard pointed out, in many cases, we are mandated to have certain services available. We just talked about the major one, fire, EMS. We need to have those things, and the state says we got to provide them. But if you take away our ability to fund them without replacing it with something, we can't operate. We can't provide the state mandated stuff if we don't have a little flexibility. I'll leave it go at that.
Thank you, Don. Well said. Randy, you want to carry on?
Should I? God, you guys are hard to follow. I had some of these conversations this week, Commissioner Bogner, with online with the representative, which I was really glad they reached out about some of these issues and how they felt like we would want to vote. And I shared my opinion with them and how I would have been a no vote on some of this stuff. And I don't know how that played out. I can obviously go look at the voting. I know the House passed something last night that's moving forward, but I've expressed that several times. And I think folks that are listening here, you have every right to call those individuals and express your concerns. You need to do that. We had a meeting some time ago with all of Reno County legislators, except for one was tied up in a meeting. I understand that happens. And I ask a sharp question of how many of you that are at that meeting ever served in a local, and I ask them to raise hands. How many of you have ever served at either the commission or city? And if you'll remember that sitting there, I didn't see any hands raised. And being who I am, I'm usually pretty sharp-tongued sometimes. I shouldn't be. You quit laughing, Mr. Bogner. And I said, well, then you're not qualified to lead in Topeka either, because how do you know the day-to-day workings of what goes on in the county if you haven't served there? Because I'll tell you, when I came to office, I didn't know much at all. What you think you know fades pretty quick.
Yeah.
And what you figure out is you're governed very heavily from up north. You're exactly right, Don. And I've expressed that opinion several times. Really, really check before you change something. The whole premises of capping that with the time constraints, you know, Mr. Partington and I have both talked about it too, the November, we have to file before November. So there's no way that would even be feasible to work for us as well. I understand there's another push up there to do away with property tax. I'm with you. I hate the property tax. I hate it that it's so high for some people, that it's a burden for some. But if you take all our tax north and we're going to give it back to us down here, who's administering that? And that's a question I've had with them many times, because I watch how you administer back to other entities and it don't work very well. And for the county, I don't want us to be in a pinch to not be able to take care of essential services. And I think sometimes we really need to examine hard, because there are some services that are not necessarily essential within every department. And that's a hard call, but we could come to that call if they ain't very careful with what they do up there. We'd have to start cutting personnel and services when you cap, and we can't do that. My other question for them was, why are we not capping and governing the other agencies? When you look at Reno County, the conversation I had with them is we are the lowest taxing entity compared to the college and school together, compared to the other mills that get laid on things. And once it's combined all that in the city together, we're not the biggest taxing entity here. And so be real careful when you start taking some of our home rule around things we can do when it's wide open with the other entities to do a lot of things sometimes that they can do. So I actually said I would like to see you give us more home rule. Give us what the city has and find out what could happen locally. We could do a lot of different things. It wouldn't enable us to just raise your taxes beyond being able to pay them. But I think when we look at what they govern, and one of the examples we used one time, now I'm on my soapbox, we used one time was even small projects that enlist us to have to get an engineer to do them at a certain dollar level. Then you're tacking on another $20,000, $30,000 to have it engineered, possibly more, to a simple project that could have been what's the threshold, $25,000? And so you throw another 30 on that. How is that trying to conserve the money that people pay in taxes when you do regulations like that? So that bothers me a bunch. I'm right there with you. But I think people need to speak up and talk to them. I have been recently. I know Mr. Partington's expressed perhaps his opinion to hopefully to some of them that's reached out to him as well. But it would behoove us to stay on top of that. I don't know how they could possibly understand everything that they see some days and go forward with how they vote. But I would love to have some relief, but I don't want it to, like you say, I don't want it to be a burden for the county and the commission to try to figure out how to make essential services work either. So, yeah.
You said you contacted quite a few reps yesterday. I did too, when I started seeing this come over my phone. And I am glad that they actually acknowledged that they got got the message. And so what I guess what I'm trying to say is they didn't ignore the fact that we were making a comment or our thoughts. Right. It's one thing that you feel better giving your thoughts, but when they acknowledge that, yes, I received them, I understand and think a lot like you do. At least you're being heard.
Right.
Whether it turns out the way you like it or not, at least you have the ability to be heard, like Randy says.
Well, and basically for the general public that's listening, I would have challenged you to do that. I had 2 years ago, one of them asked me, do you guys, well, I've been right, maybe after I just got in office, do you get many phone calls or emails or anything? And I said, I don't know that I could give you the number sometimes, but depending upon the issue. And I said, well, how many did you get last year? I'm not going to reveal who told me this. He said, I had one phone call and one email last year from constituents. You can make a difference when you call and you let them know your opinion. It may not be something you can legally have done, but at least they hear from you. And I really, in my estimation, they want to hear from you. Sometimes I'm sure they don't have time to look at everything. But that's inexcusable when you want to complain because things don't change and you don't make those phone calls. It's that simple. You can leave a message. And I've never left one that I haven't had called back, and it isn't just because of being a county commissioner either. I think they'll reach out to you. So I'm going to leave that at that, and I'll leave it to Mr. Vincent.
Yeah, when this first started, I reached out to Mr. Wagner and Mr. Murphy and never heard back. I mean, I emailed him and about this property tax, what they try to get some insight on it and what their thoughts was and what was possibly going to come down the pipe. I guess now we know. But I never received a response from either one of them. I did not say Commissioner Vincent. I emailed my personal email instead of my county email, but that I just took it for that. Second, there's still some confusion out there about sales tax. I get some calls about city-county joint. That was over a year ago, right? And I said, yeah, there was, but then somehow this got separated, and so some people still think that we're involved with the sales tax vote that's coming up, and that's a pretty easy question to answer.
County's not involved.
And
County is not involved in that
Not
sales
involved.
tax that's coming up. No,
No.
it's only city.
yeah, it's only city, but somehow they remember the joint deal, but I don't know if it was publicized or it was because we heard about it, but about the city going their way and no more joint deal. But that happened quite a while back.
I'd just throw this out there on KSN the other day. They were giving reports on the Wichita one, the one here in this community. And the picture they threw up was the courthouse. I mean, so that what some people
probably
might
where they're getting at.
have
Yeah.
equated it to that. I don't know, but yeah.
I can fill you in a little bit on this. Randy probably can too, our county administrator. We spent quite a few hours in this last year discussing how to give us a little bit of relief on property ad valorem taxes. And the city was involved in this, and the county was involved, and there was a few communities that were involved. We came away from that meeting in a consensus that we would ask the state legislature if the county could do a 0.5% sales tax shared among all the cities in Reno County. We had agreed on that. wasn't a formal motion or anything, it was a consensus. And through some changes in city council and administration, manager, the city decided to do put a 0.75% sales tax out to the citizens of Hutchinson. And like was mentioned last night, anybody who lives outside of Hutchinson can help pay for Hutchinson's needs or wants or both. So that's the basis on that. And that was brought up at a meeting we had joint meeting with the city of Hutchinson here the other day. I don't think you were there. But that's kind of important to be at these meetings so we fully understand. So anyway, that's my suggestion. That's a little history behind it.
Yeah, that meeting happened way prior to these two taking office, so Mr. Hurst, so yeah, it was a couple of.
Yep. So that's the basis for that. That's what we were looking at early on. And with that in mind, Monday the 16th at Pretty Prairie and Saturday the 21st at 2500 North Plum. Everyone's invited to learn about how the appraisal process works. It's not about your own individual taxes. This is about the appraisal process and how it works and how the state regulates, okay? So that the Pretty Prairie, it starts at 7 o'clock, and on the Saturday the 21st, it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. So everyone's invited to learn about that process. I know Randy Parks has done that at Nickerson. And so thanks to Michael Plank, has offered to go out and further explain the different parts of the county. Now, when it comes time to speaking up, do you have the dates for the legislative session, Randy? I can't remember which Saturday it is, but stay attention. It'll probably be put on the website, and if not Hutchinson, the chamber has it. The chamber has their legislative session coming up, and that's an opportunity to ask questions and give input. So attend that and have a chance to speak with your local.
That's this Saturday.
This Saturday?
14th at 9 a.m.
It's 9 o'clock.
I don't have-
Okay, it's this Saturday, 9 o'clock, and it's usually held at the college, junior college, okay? And, we're pretty fortunate in Reno County. We've got 5 local newspapers that cover different parts of the county. Not many other places. I was asked the other day, we don't have a newspaper. I said, yes, we do. So that's just a positive, I think, for our county. That's all further I have. So at this time, according to the agenda, I move the board enter executive session.
He's got it.
Pardon? Oh, yeah, for Randy,
That's okay.
I got on the wrong page.
No,
I better give you time.
this
I'll
year
get
we've
fired.
switched it to where the commission goes before me. In the past, I would go before the commission, so it takes some time to
I'm
get
still
adjusted.
old-time.
In the packet is monthly reports for the aging public transit, appraiser, automotive, clerk, communications, community corrections, district attorney, and emergency management. Any questions on anything in their monthly reports? Okay, the other item, or another item, I wanted to just remind, and then publicly, the retreat, the county commission's having a retreat. It'll be 8:30 a.m. to probably 12:30 p.m. or 1 p.m. on Friday, February 20th. And that obviously is open to the public. It'll be out at the new shooting range training facility. So, and for the commission, I've sent you guys directions on best way to get there. We can provide that for the public also if they are planning to attend. have invited department heads, department directors also to be there. So we will have that on Friday the 20th at 8:30 a.m. is when it starts. And then I was going to, you guys have all mentioned House Bill 2745. I was going to mention that to see if the commission had any intention of wanting to provide written testimony. It's due by, I think, 3 p.m. today. If you send something up there, emails or letterhead of the county, or if you want me to draft something, or if you've already talked to our local legislators, that may be fine too. But as you guys kind of mentioned, that the timing of that, you know, it has a 3% cap on taxes. New construction can be included in that, but it also requires, anything over that requires a vote, which would have to take place in November. But to have a budget, you'd actually have to have a vote a year and a half, 2 years prior to the budget, and know what the budget's needs are to make it work. Otherwise, if you have a vote in November, the tax bills, tax statements for the have already gone out for that next year, so you can't change them at that point. So it's not practical. That legislation separate from the cap on the property taxes.
If you want to draft something, throw my name on it, do it.
Okay.
Well, that was my thought.
Okay, I can.
I think we would have a bigger impact. I mean, yes, we've talked to our individual people up there, but I think we'd have a better impact if, yeah, you know, as a group county commission rather than singly,
We might-
especially if it goes beyond our own guys,
Okay.
our own local elected.
Okay, I'll draft, and getting all your signatures by 3, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that, but if not, I will have something drafted on behalf of the commission and have Chairman Hurst sign it.
Sounds like
If you guys are good with that.
And you might get one of our local, see if one of our local legislators could read it also
Okay.
at that meeting. Or if
At
you've
the-
got
at the-
someone else there that,
There's-
KAC or whatever.
Yeah, if they have
Legislative people, read that.
in-person testimony tomorrow, I believe it's tomorrow's the hearing for the committee.
But that's right here's the problem. Look how short a time period it is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear if you don't give people time to get it done. And we heard about these bills and they started coming up, 2 days ago, a day and a half ago?
Yeah.
And you've got this long to, well, it's kind of by design, I think. Now, yeah.
There's another consideration just besides the timing on this, is it really plays havoc with any future valuations. It just construes it big time where it's not very practical.
Yeah, and the other thing with this bill is it does exempt school districts, which is controlled by the state. So that 20 mils the state collects goes to Topeka and then is dispersed based on a formula. It's not a 1-for-1 of that 20 mils coming back to our school district. So, but that is exempt, so they wouldn't have, the state with their school district money doesn't have to follow the same exemption or
Well-
follow the same rules.
And I don't know how many, I remember when I gave some information before to the committee, how many copies you need, but
Okay.
I might work with,
Yeah, all
with
of-
our representatives, they might just be able to print some of those up for you.
Okay, I'll check and I'll send in the testimony, get at least your signature, Chairman Hurst, on behalf of the commission, and then probably send a copy to all of our local legislators.
Well, my pet peeve from the beginning, you talk about, will you get the money back if it's promised? My pet peeve since I walked in here was that we were supposed to be getting money back from them under law to lower our property taxes. It never got put on the state budget, and we never got it for 15 years. At the recent meeting,
That amount,
those funds are still, some of those funds are still up there and haven't never been dispersed.
Well, you say 15 years, but it's probably more like 23 or 4 years now, and it was 3.5 billions in arrear.
Yes.
Yes.
And so when they talk about sending you money back, we know their track record.
I believe it was 2002 or 2003 was the last time they paid that, when you're talking about the ad valorem tax relief. So it has been more than 20 years that they and they got rid of that statute, so they don't have to do that. But this bill does have them creating a fund that would then be dispersed back to counties based on, as long as cities and counties be eligible if they don't ask for a vote. If they don't ask for a vote to exceed the 3%, they create a new fund that gets dispersed. But the way it reads, it looks like it goes back to the counties based on different population, assessed value. And then for cities, it would be up to the county to have a interlocal agreement with cities of what they get out of that.
And they could vote that down anytime, just like they did the other.
All right, that's all I have on my report.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for sharing your time with us.
Yeah.
We got to speak.
Sorry about
we
that.
got to speak too.
Maybe this brings about the thought that the next time they have local government day at Topeka, that we need to show up and make appointments with not only our local but others. Maybe some journalist will make a little effort to find out where the money flows, to see who lobbyists representing which corporation gave to some of those that are sponsoring some of these bills. My editorial. Okay.
Follow the money.
Yeah.
Well, if we're ready now, as I move the board enter executive session until 10:10 with the county administrator, the county commission. The subject matter to be the position of county counselor, and the justification for the executive session is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. And we will have that meeting here, and we will come back with anticipated no action. Thank you all for attending and for watching. Mayor Marlington, hi.
Pointed out. I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? If not, vote, roll call, please.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Vincent?
Yes.
Commissioner Winger?
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Well, I guess.
Call the meeting of the Board of County Commissioners back to order. There was no decisions made from the executive session. And so is there any further comments anyone would like to make? Commission. Not, we'll consider the meeting closed, adjourned.